This podcast is rated E for explicit and by category of true crime contains language and descriptions of crimes not suitable for young or sensitive listeners.
In Tawnya Knight's case, a pattern is emerging. Clearly, someone is lying. There are conflictions in Sarah's recorded statement to police, and even more contradictions in Steve's statements to Tanya's mother, Lori. This is part 2 of Tawnya Knight, When Lies Collide, and this is the Cold Case Chronicles.
I know your secret, I know the truth, I know your secrets and I'm telling on you.
Let's start today talking about Sara.
Okay.
So we're back on the Tawnya Knight case. Last week, we played a little bit of Sarah's polygraph, kind of the intro to it, and realized that Sara described herself as being Tanya's best friend. But I know when I was in high school, how kids were about, this is my best friend. Oh, yeah, she's my best friend. Oh, that's my best friend. You know, everybody's your best friend. Not me, because I hated everyone in high school.
I only have like 2 friends, period, and they're both my best friends.
Right.
And one of them is my sister. So
the other one's me?
Yep.
Okay. All right. We'll go with that. Tawnya also had a crush on Sarah's boyfriend. So I can't imagine they would be best friends if she had a crush on her boyfriend. And it was rumored that Tawnya had kissed him. If someone kissed my boyfriend, even now, if you kiss my husband, I'll whip your ass. So if I was in high school, same situation. We're not going to be best friends. We're not going to be hanging out.
And I would make sure that everyone in the school hated you.
I'm picturing some sort of hair pulling situation, like Mean Girls.
Yeah, you're not going to say, hey, let's go hang out this weekend.
Yeah.
We're best friends. In the interview with the officer, Sara says the last time that she talked to Elijah was on around that Wednesday night, the last time she had seen him prior to her going missing. That had to be a lie because she says she drove him back to Topeka because he lived on the other side of the track. He had been from that area, but then he moved. And she said the only transportation that he had was back and forth with her. And she said she took him back on Wednesday. Well, the officer says, look, I can tell you right now that Elijah told me that he was at Haney's house that night that Tawnya got dropped off there.
While his girlfriend is where?
Going off somewhere else.
To the like kids club?
Yeah, to the kids club. The big kids club. So Sarah's response is just kind of like, well, I mean, I guess he could have been, maybe he was behind the door or something when I dropped her off.
What? Nobody does. They just watched the movie Scream and found that was like, that's all she did.
It was just a dumb thing to say. If they told me that my boyfriend had been there, I would have been like, are you fucking kidding me? He was at that house when she went. I mean, it would still be raw in me if that happened. So she was like, no, maybe he was behind the door. And they said, so you didn't talk to him that whole weekend? And she said, no. Yeah. So
everybody had a pager
lying.
then.
Yes.
You would have paid. Everybody had their codes. You paged each other.
Yes.
Hi, call me. Love you. Where are you? Everybody had their codes.
He was.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the next thing. When Steve, who is the guy who left at 9:00 that night because of his probation phone call, when he went home, her mom, Tanya's mom, ended up going and interviewing Steve at his house. She kind of went along with her private investigator that she got years later, and she took a recorder and put it in her purse. She's like super sleuth, and I commend her for it because that would be me. I'd be going door to door if nothing's being done. One thing about the recording, and I don't know how she kept from just freaking out, is in this recording, the smoke alarm, the smoke detector, the battery was going dead in this guy's
I'm gonna
house.
fucking punch something right now. Just hearing
the whole time.
You just telling me beep.
She should have just been.
I would have just been like, "Hey,
can
you got a battery? Because I can run down to Target or Walmart and Dollar Store, whatever. And I can get you some AA or a 9-volt."
It was a Dollar General, and they had a horse tie out there too.
Shut up.
The following is a section of the interview that Lori had with Steve years after Tawnya's murder. Steve was not aware that he was being recorded, which is completely legal under Kansas single-party consent laws. We've tried our best to edit the audio from a recorder hidden in Lori's purse. The entirety of the interview can be heard on our website, coldcasechronicles.com, under the Tawnya Night tab.
And there's a lot of bickering between the group. I mean, but it was a lot of teenage drama, and I never found anything serious. But what I can tell you, and I always thought, Sara, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Is Sara capable of something like that? Between her and Elisha, my top pick would go to Elisha on that part. But Sara, I don't know.
Why do you say Elijah?
Because when me and him were really good friends growing up, and he went to Topeka and came back, and he was just this completely different, just thought he was this hardcore gangster guy, and I know that, me and him actually, went almost toe-to-toe, because he took an interest in Tawnya, and I was like, no, that ain't gonna happen, because Tanya's way too innocent for this guy, and me and even my friend Chris Roberts, I mean, Chris was just this, sweetest guy you ever met in your life. And when he stood up and it was like, no, we want no part of it. We just all got a bad feeling from Elisha. And it's...
My son Wayne was real good friends with Chris Roberts.
Oh, yeah. I actually...
And saw him in the hospital when he was dying.
I saw him, I went and saw Chris also, and I saw Wayne was there.
Yeah, he told me he saw you.
Yeah.
Chris was at our house all the time.
And I always heard that, and I used to, I hung out with Wayne several times, and really liked him and stuff. And given what all the rumors flying around town, it just, I didn't know what anybody thought of me, and I still don't to this day. Like, I have a friend that lives out there in Spring Hill, out in the country, and he'll want to go into town. I'm just like, I don't know what anyone would think me from that town, and that hurts. I mean, that was my hometown.
But we get the person responsible, because I know there was people who was suspected from the very beginning. They're taking a bad rap.
Yeah.
Look and see how their life has been affected.
Oh, absolutely.
It's affected a lot of people.
Yeah.
Even a lot of people in Spring Hill.
You know what? Even worse. I mean, it's you guys. That's who I feel for. I mean, damn my feelings. I mean, honestly, what hurts me is that you guys actually have to go through this. I have 3 kids, and if something like that happened, I mean, I don't know what I'd do. I mean, I don't know what I would do.
Where were you that night after you left the park? How did you get home?
Oh, I from
Haney,
South Island, lived like 2 blocks, about 2 blocks.
No, not that far. We could see Eddie's house.
Well, I mean, you had to go just down like one half of a block and then another half, and we lived right there on the corner. It was Lawrence and Franklin, I believe. And so and that's why she would always come up. I was supposed surprised that Debbie said she saw her walking down towards, the cemetery. I mean, because normally she would walk up towards, I don't know if you know, the Duncans on the corner. If you walked out of his house and took a left and took another right, that's the way she, would normally go. And if from his house, but to be honest, she wasn't always over there a whole bunch. I mean,
do you know why she would have gone by the way of the cemetery?
I don't. It would have had to have been somebody was with her. I mean, that I can tell you. I mean, there would be no reason for her to go that way.
So she goes in, she starts interviewing him, and she asks him about that night whenever Tawnya disappeared, because in her mind, she thinks Steve may have had something to do with it. Steve says that he was really good friends with Tawnya, best friends. Again, best friends. Steve says that when he was at Haney's house that night, before he left at 9, Tawnya was there. Interesting, because Sara says she dropped Tawnya off around 10:30 that night. Steve left in time to be home by 9. And
so then he left at like 8:45?
Yeah, because he walked home. It's just a block and a half. Now, the other thing is he also said there were several people there, and Sara and Crystal were among those people.
So Sara has lied about a lot.
Yes. If Sara and Crystal were at the house, that's a huge lie, because Sara says that she just dropped Tawnya off. Tawnya went up to the door, asked if she could stay, and then came back and told her she was staying, and then went back to the house. So she made it seem like she didn't even go up near the house.
You know what, though? What if, okay, just going to play devil's advocate. What if him saying they were there was her parked in the driveway waiting on Tawnya to come back?
Maybe.
Just to throw out devil's advocate.
But how would he even know that they had dropped her off? I mean, Tawnya could have gone in and said they dropped me off, but why would he consider that as they were there?
Yeah.
But again, we're looking at teenagers saying this side of the story versus this side of the story.
Like outsiders.
Yes. And he says Elijah was there. So that's another point for Elijah being there. Another thing about Elijah is Debbie, the mom that was at the house, Haney's house. First of all, it was a party house. They said that you could smoke pot there. So a lot of people hung out there late because it was a pot smoking house. And that Debbie said that she pointed out Elijah and said that she saw Tawnya walking home with Elijah. So when Tawnya left to walk home, Elijah went with her. So that puts Elijah and Tawnya headed home from Haney's house at the same time.
But didn't Elijah end up going back to shower?
Yes.
Okay.
So then Steve says...
Why did he need to shower again?
That's a good question. So then Steve said that he got a knock on his window when he was at home, and it was Elijah, and he asked if he could come in and take a shower. He had a duffel bag with him. After he came in and took a shower, he left and went over to his friend's house. So he just came in his house to take a shower.
I don't know about older teenage boys, but I know about one teenage boy at least.
Yeah.
And he doesn't shower that often.
Right.
He definitely would not go knock on somebody else's door.
No.
When he
Or
was
window.
asked what time it was when Elijah came to shower, he couldn't remember exactly, but he said he thought it was just before midnight. So we have a weird time frame situation here, because the mother at Haney's house said that it was around midnight whenever they left. And there was a lot that had to go on during Tanya's murder. They had to walk to the graveyard. Her clothes had been changed. She was in a man's t-shirt, and the jacket was missing. The shoes were missing. There was a lot that went on. We don't know if she was sexually assaulted, but assuming that she probably was he going to Steve's house to shower and then meet her in the graveyard? Or was he going to his house to shower after he murdered her? You would think he would be covered in blood.
That's what always kills me, is that people aren't covered in blood. Like, how are they not?
I guess it depends on how he killed her. We still don't know. There was
I get
little
a
leak.
hangnail and I like have blood everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
I don't
There
know.
was a little leak by, I believe it was the private investigator, that she was stabbed to death. And if that's the case,
You would
Then
be
you would
covered
definitely
in
covered in
have
blood. And I think that's why it's in the back of my head that possibly.
Unless he wasn't wearing his shirt and he put it on her.
Didn't they say that the shirt that she was found in isn't something they didn't recognize as hers?
Yes, it wasn't hers. It was a guy's shirt, and it said, like, if you don't like this, dial 1-800-EAT shit or whatever,
Yeah.
Something like that. And it was a shirt that nobody said that she would have been wearing. And it was reported that she had been wearing a blue t-shirt that night. So it wasn't
that's
what she
never
had been
been
right.
found.
And that wasn't found. So the theory is that possibly the duffel bag that he had that night had her shirt in it. But why would he change her shirt? Like, that part doesn't make sense. The interesting thing is she had borrowed Steve's Dallas Cowboys jacket,
Mm-hmm.
and she had been wearing it. She borrowed a lot of his Dallas Cowboy stuff.
And then someone's sister has it now.
Yes. So then her jacket and her shoes were missing. Her shoes belonged to Sara. Those are Sarah's shoes. So the shoes were missing. The jacket was missing. So a lot of people think that it was Steve and Sara that did it because they took their items back. But the jacket was actually recovered by Elijah's girlfriend's little sister. Not Sara. This was later on, a different girlfriend. So Elijah sold it to his girlfriend's little sister, and then she gave it to police. When questioned how he got the jacket, Elijah said that Steve sold it to him. And Steve said, "No, I didn't sell him my jacket. Last time I saw it, I gave it to Tawnya." So how did Elijah get the jacket
I've got a theory.
if he
but I'll
didn't
wait
take it
until
off
the
her
end.
body? No, you can go ahead.
I think that Sara came back to the house and said, or knew somehow that Elijah was there. And then she asked for Sara or Elijah, and they weren't there. They left to go hook up out away from the crowd. She tracked them down, and they murdered her because he would have done whatever his girlfriend wanted.
Right.
Because he didn't want all of the
Right.
teenage drama.
And
with
that
it.
happens all the time. If you do a Google search on jealous teenage
Mhm.
murder, that happens a lot. The girls will say, if you love me, you'll do this. If you want to stay with me,
Yep.
you'll do this. You have to kill her now.
Or like the girl who made her boyfriend like kill himself.
Right.
So, and then he took the jacket and she took her shoes back. And then
The
he went
other-
to take a shower.
Because those jackets were all the rage back then.
Oh, yeah.
Like all the popular, I mean, I was in elementary school at that point, and all the popular kids had those football puffy jackets.
Yeah, starter jackets.
Yep.
Well, and then the other thing is he wasn't real fond of Steve anymore because apparently he was wanting to date Tawnya, and Steve told him, no, she's off limits. You're no good for her, kind of thing, because he was friends with Tawnya. So he didn't like Steve. So that could have been another reason he would have taken the jacket
Mm.
and then sold it. Here's another kind of theory that I thought about too is teenagers, and I'm not saying in any way that Tawnya was sexually active. I'm not trying to insinuate. I'm just saying that this would be a theory. If she had sex with Elijah and then she was trying to get him to break up with Sara, what if she told him she was pregnant? And Elijah's like, I don't want any part of this. Let me walk you home, or let's go hook up in the graveyard, because that's where a lot of people hung out, in that graveyard, and they smoke weed and drink.
Nothing hotter than
hooking up in a graveyard.
fucking over some dead bodies.
Yeah, I know. And so what if he took her out there and killed her because he thought she was pregnant?
I don't dislike that.
Yeah. And she really wasn't, but
she was lying in order to get
Oh,
him.
because
get
that's
him
a
to break up
crazy.
with Sara.
I bet you personally know at least 3 people who were crazy ass hoes in high school. They were like, I'm pregnant.
Just 3?
Actually, yes.
See?
Yeah.
At minimum 3.
I graduated with like 77 people is all, and I could tell you more than 3.
But that's why I don't dislike it.
Yeah. And there's no way, honestly, to prove that theory
No.
unless he were to come forward and say it. And now he still lives in Topeka and he's married, has kids.
Yeah, come on, Elijah.
Yeah. Tell your
Tell
story.
us your story.
How else did you get the jacket?
We've heard Sarah's story. Come on.
And the night before, she kept a diary, just like all kids that were done back then, and wrote down everything that they did wrong.
I didn't have a diary. Does that make me
Really?
weird?
I had one, but it was kind of like, this is what I did today.
I got
I
grounded
played
so
video
much.
games. I read. I played outside.
I
I
never.
got in so much trouble.
It was never about feelings or anything.
I was the person who wrote letters back and forth to my friends and then kept the letters. And I remember keeping the letters. My mom listens to this podcast, so I know she's like,
Well,
"Yep."
you're a grown up adult with
Yeah,
your
I'm
own
a grown-ass
teenagers
woman.
now. So.
Yeah. So I kept all the letters in this cooler in my bedroom. And one day I got out of school and she told me to go straight home because I was in trouble. And I was like, I didn't do anything that, and she had found that cooler and read the letters. I was in so
You
much
kept
trouble.
them in a cooler?
Yeah. I wasn't going to keep under the bed. Everybody looks places like that. So I kept them like in this cooler and they were closed up.
Oh.
And it talked about sneaking out of my friend's house, all this stuff.
I just
Yeah, was
also
in
never
so
talked
much
about that
trouble.
shit. My notes were like so stupid.
Yeah.
I was the good kid.
If I had the internet, I would have been so screwed.
My mama, I'm going to have her call in and confirm that I was the good kid.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't believe it. This is what her diary said on Friday night before the Saturday that she went missing. It said, go to Steve's to see Elijah. Go to Randy's, cruise with Sara and Crystal, stay the night at Steve's or Brian's somewhere. So her dad had said that she had been grounded earlier in the week and that he was going to let her spend the night somewhere Saturday night. But on Friday, she had said that she was going to stay at
Rachel's house, right?
that was going to be Saturday night.
Plan.
But this was for Friday night. She said she was going to stay the night at Steve or Brian somewhere. And she was going to Steve's to see Elijah.
Yeah.
So that's a little weird to me. Then she told a classmate that she was going to a party that Saturday night with Sara and Steve to drink beer and smoke pot.
Fun.
Yeah. And then that she was going to stay at Rachel's house. So maybe staying at Rachel's was the original plan, but nothing was entered in for Saturday night, like upcoming. So I do believe that her whole plan was to be with Elijah. I don't know if Sara knew about it, if she was covering for him, or if she really was in the dark.
Yeah, I can see it being a trap for Tawnya so easily, and I can see it, Sara being completely in the dark as well.
Right.
Come on, guys. It's like, you're old. You probably have your own kids, and if this happened to them, what would you?
I thought you were talking to me, saying, come on, guys, you're old. I'm like, that'd be the second time today I've been told I was old.
Well, me too.
Yeah. What would the reason be for him to come in and take a shower if he hadn't killed her? He left someone's house. If he left Haney's house.
So the other idea I had about that is that he went and hooked up with Tawnya and they parted ways, and he knew that Sara was coming back. So he went and took a shower to not smell like
that makes sense.
Tawnya. That was my last thought. But I really think somebody closer to her killed her. But that would have left it open for like a stranger, like a random killing.
Like she was walking home alone by the cemetery and it was just an opportunity, some pedophile or...
Steve was also brought in several times, and he actually came into the police station, talked to the police, and he took several polygraphs. Here's the thing, you know how I feel about polygraphs, but he failed a couple polygraphs, but then the next time he would take it, he would pass the section that he had failed previously and then fail a section that he had passed previously. I don't know how you do that and how you would take that literal if you were an investigator.
Yeah, and like, we're not even supposed to believe polygraph results anymore.
Right.
And I mean, their technology wasn't as good as it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So take that for all you want.
Yes. At least he came in and talked to them. Elijah wouldn't even come in and talk. He still hasn't talked, which I find is weird that if he is on the suspect list at all.
If Steve talked, if Sara talked, he should have talked.
I get that you can't arrest him. You might not have.
But at least clear your name. Like, if you were truly innocent, you would want to talk to them to clear your name.
Right.
But if he's avoiding talking to them, that just says something completely different.
So you just let him go without talking to him because you can't arrest him? I don't know. I'm not a cop. I don't know how somehow make him come in for an interview at the very least. Arrest him on something. He's been arrested several times, but if he was questioned at this point, this many years later, is it
even worth it? Like, he wouldn't remember, or he'd make something up.
Unless he was guilty, and then he would remember, and then he would definitely make something up. But would his story match up with anybody else's? What would Sara say today? Because Sara and Steve had this Facebook exchange not too long ago. And Sara actually said that Haney had also told her that Elijah walked Tawnya home. Why would anybody else lie about that? Why are they covering for him? They said that when he moved back from Topeka, he considered himself a Crip. Like, he said that he was in a gang. So maybe they were afraid of him.
I mean, can you imagine, like, just the middle of fucking nowhere, Kansas, and then, like, yeah, I'm a Crip.
Such a badass.
You better not wear red.
Right? Is it red?
No, Crips are blue.
Yeah.
Bloods are red.
Yeah.
There's the...
Okay.
I don't know.
You said you tried to track Elijah down, but like, no social media. His name is spelled kind of weird.
So his wife is on social media, but he is nowhere to be found anymore. He was on social media for a while, but now he's no longer there. But you can find his address. He still lives in Topeka.
Okay.
Now, Steve has now passed away.
And he was the one with the alcoholism.
Yes, he had alcoholism. It affected his liver and other functions, which happens. To me, I feel as though my personal opinion, he probably had nothing to do with it. And if he didn't, it's really sad because everybody was pointing fingers at him his whole life. And he has 3 children, and he basically got ran out of Spring Hill because everybody pointed fingers at him for this. If he did do it, then let him burn in hell. But if he didn't do it, I really feel that his alcoholism and everything was because of him being forced to live his life kind of in the shadows of everybody pointing this finger at him all of his life. And I don't know. I feel bad for him if he really had nothing to do with it. But he passed away. So that's one story that will never be told if anything comes of it later on, if it needs to go to trial. And that's what happens in a lot of our cold cases because people are dying. And even though this, most of these people are 40 or young, that's still happening. People are dying. There's 2 people that are dead in this case. And what are they going to do? Just keep waiting, keep drawing it out?
The farther you get away from the actual crime, the more people are going to forget, the more people are going to move away and become hard to trace
down.
If
they say they can't find Elijah, they can call me. I can go find him. I mean, it isn't rocket science. These people can't hide. We can find Osama bin Laden. We can find Elijah. I'm not going to say his last name, but, I can find him.
Yeah.
Now, if it was the fake pregnancy thing or if it was the jealousy thing, then Sara probably knows more than she's talking about, even if she wasn't there. Because Elijah wouldn't have kept his mouth shut about it. He would have said, I did this, or he would have slipped up. But teenage girls, I don't know how for 20 years they would have kept their mouth shut. Teenage girls just talk.
Or they would have let something slip.
Right.
Accidentally.
And especially if Sara and Crystal were together when it happened, you put two teenage girls together, there's no way that secret's staying safe forever. Like, my daughter even said to me the other day, she was like, if you ever killed somebody, just don't tell me, because I would not be able to keep a secret. I was like, don't you worry. If I ever killed somebody, you'd be the last person.
Her roommate and her room or her friend can't keep a secret either.
Oh, yeah. Her friend can't keep a secret at all. They are. Yeah, I would never tell them anything at all. If I won the lottery, I wouldn't tell my daughter.
You'd just disappear.
I'd be like, bye. Yeah. To the point where there's times where it would make more sense to just fake your own death and just be gone, than to tell the truth. I will have an interview with Tanya's mom, and just to get a little bit of information about what she thinks, what she's feeling. I wouldn't want to put myself in her shoes for anything in this world. I know that it's the worst possible thing in the world to lose a child, but to lose a child and then not have answers and not have somebody pay for it for this long is ridiculous. And she's done so much legwork on all this, because she's gone and she's hired a private investigator, and she's gone to the doors, knocked on the doors, and done all the things that the police should have done. She's got no answers. She's got the answers that she thinks. She has like a narrative in her head of what she thinks happened. And that's what you would do. You would lay awake at night and you would be thinking of all these narratives that you think happened to your child. And it's awful. And she needs justice. And if any of these people, if Sara, if Crystal, if Elijah, any of them know what happens, even the smallest amount of knowledge of that night of what happened, then they need to, if they have to, lawyer up, protect themselves, and then tell the little bit that they know and get it out there. You can get protection for yourself if you just know, if you know who did it, and you were maybe a little part of it, but you didn't pull the trigger, so to speak, then lawyer up, get immunity.
I know.
I mean, most of these people have kids now, so they should know what it feels like and what it would feel like if you lost your child like this. Have some sympathy.
Now that Steve is dead, it is imperative that Sara and Elijah come forward to correct the timelines in the story. If you like what you've heard, please share a link and leave a rating. And as always,
have the day you deserve.
Especially if you're keeping secrets.
I know your secrets and I'm telling